So, what does a Santa gnome, telekinetic powers, high school basketball, Eastern European eccentric mobsters, and yogurt have in common? Abso-fucking-lutely nothing, but they put it in this movie anyway. Big Gold Brick is brought to us by director Brian Petzos and stars Emery Cohen, Andy Garcia, and Megan Fox, with your fine ass. Fledgling writer Samuel Liston and his experiences with Floyd Devereaux, the enigmatic father of two who enlists Samuel to write his biography. So Big Gold Brick was a movie that I saw the trailer for quite some time ago and I thought, yes, this looks like the right kind of batshit crazy for me. And yeah, it's got its batshit crazy moments. Quite a few of them, in fact. For me to describe what this movie's about would be kind of a waste of time because it's kind of hard to describe what this movie's about. Basically, we have down on his luck writer Samuel, played by Emery Cohen, who one night Andy Garcia's Floyd accidentally hits in his car. This causes Samuel brain damage and Floyd feels bad for it, so he asks Samuel to come live at his home while he recovers and he can write his biography. What's so special about Floyd that he needs a biography written about him, you may ask? Well, that seems to be the question that a lot of people are asking, and a question that this movie kind of, sort of answers. Now from here, we have just like a really odd, eclectic series of events that take place. And all of these events are kind of thinly tied together by an extremely thin thread. Now where the movie is at its best is when it is showing us Samuel's brain damage and how he is perceiving the world. I really like these parts of the movie. These are the batshit crazy, surreal moments, i.e. a lot of what the trailer showed us. That's not the entire movie, but there is quite a bit of it here. And this shit gets fucking crazy. Like, there's a Santa gnome in the room he's staying in that just randomly talks to him. He has these weird visions that he lives out where he's like up in space and then he comes flying down to the earth and dies, and his body is found by himself and he's really confused by that, obviously, and then he sees other versions of himself, and then there's some telekinetic-esque powers, kinda, I think, that come into play later on. This fucking movie's all over the place. And that's not to mention the stuff about the college basketball and the mafia and all that. I mean, this movie goes some places. The question is should it have gone some places? And well, no, probably not. This movie is just scatterbrained as hell. It is all over the place. Now I can deal with scatterbrained, especially in a movie that is dealing with brain damage, and they are trying to get that across to us in many of these scenes, and they do a pretty good job of that. The problem is everything else that links all of this together, it doesn't really do a good job of linking anything together. It's like somebody had a whole bunch of ideas of instances and situations and scenes that they wanted to put into a movie one day, but they could never pick that right movie to put these scenes in. And they're all like these weird, odd Cohen Brothers-esque situations. The scenes themselves and what happens in them and the tone and how they're put together, I liked. It's the fact that none of it really goes together in any kind of cohesive way. It's just weird-ass shit happening for weird-ass shit's sake a lot of the time. That and the movie just doesn't really go anywhere with it. Sure, things happen. I guess the story has a conclusion, but it's just not a very satisfying conclusion because you didn't really care about the things that happened prior to the conclusion, so when it gets to the conclusion, you're like, I don't really give a fuck about what's being concluded here because I don't really fully get what happened leading up to this. And yes, I know a lot of the really weird out there moments in the movie are trying to show Samuel's brain damage, and like I said a moment ago, I thought that was really good. That depiction of that, I enjoyed the way they did that. But the other parts of the movie just didn't do much for me. Now, something this movie did do really good was the characters. I really liked all the characters in this movie. They were very entertaining and colorful. Even the ones that don't have a lot of screen time were memorable, such as Oscar Isaac's mob boss. This character and his little kooky mannerisms and just random stuff about him, like why does he have this leg brace on and just randomly pulling out a machine gun and shooting somebody for apparently no goddamn reason. I like this. This made this character very memorable. Or Andy Garcia's Floyd and that character just as a whole and what's really going on with him. He was a very interesting character. And this extends to the vast majority of the characters in this movie. If we were going on characters alone, this movie would be fantastic. Problem is, all these really interesting, colorful characters don't have a lot to do here. The performers are giving it their all. They all do a great job here. They just don't have much to work with. I understand that kind of out there surreal movies are at times going to be difficult to understand, but this movie really wasn't that hard to understand. It's fucking out there, but you get what's going on. That wasn't the problem. The problem was you just don't care. There's not a lot of meaning to what's going on. Now, I really like the aesthetic of this movie. Its look, its tone, its feel. It has a quirky Cohen Brothers feel to it. The effects used here aren't always going for realism. In fact, most of the time they're going for more of a surrealism. And it does really work here. There were so many things about this movie I really liked, but that pesky narrative kept getting in the fucking way. Guys, Big Gold Brick is a really difficult movie for me to review. On one hand, we've got some really great characters and performances. The world they created here, I really enjoyed, and many of the situations we find these characters in is just off kilter and quirky enough to put a smile on my face. But on the other hand, the narrative, you know, the driving force behind a film just isn't there. Yeah, there's a story here, but you just don't care. The overarching narrative is almost like an afterthought that they used to tie all these quirky situations that they had ideas for together. And that made the overall experience very disjointed and not very enjoyable at times. That being said, the characters, world, and feel of this movie went a very long way for me. And even though the story is a pretty substantial letdown, it's still worth checking out on streaming.
Across the street.
Not gonna lie, almost gave this one an up all night, but the character, world, and all that stuff that I mentioned pulled it across the line just barely for me. This ain't gonna be for everybody, but if this kind of surrealist humor sounds like it's gonna be your kind of thing, then check it out one night. I think you'll at least have a really good time with the world and characters. So there it is, guys, my review of Big Gold Brick. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below. Become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits to go along with that, like these guys. And possibly check out my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg C and Dragon Khan. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, hack and sack.
Floyd, I've been looking for you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, there's a lot more where that came from.
So I didn't talk about her in the review really, but this is another instance of Megan Fox showing up in a movie again on her slow comeback. And I'm digging it. And might I just say that Megan Fox, as she gets older, man, this woman just doesn't age. There's a part in this movie where she puts on display, let's say, her wares. And god damn it, man, that woman is fucking beautiful still to this day. I kind of see her as like the new Jennifer Connelly. She started out in like these kind of sort of ditzy roles where people didn't really think much of her acting abilities. And she kind of had a break and came back and showed people that, yeah, you know what? Not only am I beautiful, but I also have some acting chops. It's kind of what Megan Fox is doing here. And the two have a whole lot in common because Fox, much like Connelly, is not just showing that she has acting chops, but the two don't really age much. I mean, Jennifer Connelly is getting up there in age, and you're starting to see it a little bit. She is still fucking beautiful and looks really young. And I mean, Megan Fox, I've already said that, she is fucking gorgeous too. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I don't have like any funny quips or anything about it. I'm just talking about two extremely gorgeous women who are aging very gracefully. Yeah, they pretty.